Window tint shops, do this one 5-minute activity with me together right now, and I guarantee you will close more tint jobs. So first of all, I'm assuming you are losing a lot of jobs to cheaper competitors. Maybe you're priced at about $400, $500, $600, and maybe someone else is priced at $199, even $299. If that's you, then this activity will help a lot. So first, what I want you to think about is what actually happens if someone goes with that cheaper option. Okay, so like, let's say this is them, this is you. Okay, let's just make a table over here. Okay, let's say you charge $500 for your tint. Let's say someone cheaper charges closer to $200. Okay, now do this activity with me. What actually happens when they go with that $200 service versus the $500 service? And by the way, if nothing bad happens to the customer, if they don't actually get something less or a worser service, then you really need to reevaluate what it is that you're offering. But let's start the exercise. So with you, what are they getting? Okay, they're getting a high quality tint. So high quality tint, which means that it blocks heat. Okay, what else are they getting? Well, they're getting tint that actually does not bubble. It does not fade or turn purple. It does not peel. The gaps are properly lined, so like we can call it less gaps. Okay, maybe you cover the panel with water, so cover door panel, so which is like electronics are not bad or whatever it is. So you cover the door panel. And you see this activity, think about every single thing that they're getting, okay? Now you could offer a job done under 3 hours, right? There's different things you can offer. So they get it done under 3 hours. They can wait. You have an office where they can wait. You know, let's say you're mobile. That's a convenience, okay? Every single thing I want you to list down just like I have right now. Let's think for a few more seconds of what else it is that they're getting. So we've talked about good quality tint. It actually blocks heat. It actually protects from UV rays. Okay, what else does it do? Which is like obviously skin cancer. It looks better. Okay, that's something they're getting. Okay, what else? So it doesn't bubble, it doesn't fade, doesn't turn purple, doesn't peel. There's no real gaps. You cover the door panel 3 hours. Maybe you have an option where they can roll windows up like literally instantly. And just ignore my handwriting. Keep thinking, right? Is there anything else? If there's anything I'm missing, I want you to add it in your list. But let's say you offer like a free pickup, drop-off service, right? Or free Uber, or whatever it is. Let's say hypothetically you offer that. Once you have basically listed everything that your service offers, now I want you to list everything that happens or that they don't get when they go with the $200 option. So, most likely, are they actually using a good film? No, they're most likely not using a good film. What does that mean? Does it actually block a lot of the heat or as much as your tint blocks? Most likely no, because realistically, no one can charge $200 and actually use a decent film that costs a decent amount, because then they wouldn't be making any profits. So let's start listing down what happens when the customer goes with the $200s. First of all, let's just say it doesn't block as much heat, okay? What are the chances that that tint will end up fading or turning purple if it costs $200, right? Pretty high. So let's say fading / purple is high. What are the chances the film will peel or bubble? I'm assuming it's pretty high, because if they're able to charge that amount, that means that A, the installer probably doesn't have that much experience. B, this shop just started. They have literally no experience with tint, or maybe they have a couple months experience. You know, the shops that open and close, could be that. So the likelihood of it peeling or bubbling is higher. What else? Maybe there's more gaps in the film. There could be more gaps. What else? Like maybe they don't cover door panels. Okay, door panels, no, which means that their electronics, mess up. Maybe they don't have a waiting area and it's only pick up and drop off, which is very inconvenient. I won't write that, but just assume that. Maybe, obviously if there's gaps, it won't look as good. That's another thing. Maybe they can't roll their windows down instantly. maybe it takes more than 3 hours because the person isn't experienced. Once you start listing all of this down, then you will basically be able to use this in your sales process. Now, the biggest thing or the biggest reason that people are not closing and going with the $200 option over a $500, and now I'm not talking about the people who literally always want the cheapest. That's maybe 10 or 20% who will no matter what want the cheapest, no matter what you do, no matter what you say. I'm talking about the other 60% who, if convinced or if you actually explain what happens when they go with a cheaper option, they will not go with a cheaper option because they don't want all of these bad things. Because which sane person, again, apart from that 10 or 20%, would want all of these issues? And the main thing you do that is by what I call seeding doubt. Very, very important thing. You want them to be doubtful in their mind that, hey, when I go with this cheaper option, I might actually not end up getting what I want, right? And you can only do this seeding doubt, by the way, by asking them questions. So it could be as simple as on the sales call. It's like, hey, well, I guess a bit of an obvious question, but do you want your tint to actually last more than a few months, or like how long do you want it to last? And when they're like, obviously, like I want it to last a long time, right? But the fact that you're asking this question means after that you can say, oh yeah, because we offer a lifetime warranty. A lot of people will say it, but it actually ends up lasting. Okay, got it. I'm assuming you want the shop to actually cover the door panel so your electronics don't get messed up, right? They're like, oh yeah. And now you're placing stuff in their mind that they never thought about, right? And that is basically doubt. The problem is when you don't ask these questions, they have no idea about this. This piece of knowledge is literally unknown to them. They have no idea. And it is your job and your responsibility, either in the sales process or the marketing process, which is obviously what we do, to get people to know this. So very, very important thing. It's your job to place a doubt. Obviously, you can't guarantee whether someone goes with you, but you can absolutely 100% place this doubt, ask these questions, and increase the chances that they will be very skeptical of now going with a cheaper option. And now because you have educated them and that education is coming from you, they're more likely to trust you and go with you. So basically, just to recap, asking questions like, oh, I guess it's important if someone covers the door panels. Okay, yeah. And for you, is it important if there's no gaps in the tint, or does that not matter to you? You can ask questions like that. Or you can even say stuff like, oh, a bit of an obvious question, but like, some people go with the cheaper shops that do this. Like, for you, is that important though? Right? And they'd be like, well, obviously, right? And then you can explain what happens basically when they go with a cheaper option. But you always want to ask these questions first to place that seed in their mind. And then the grand slam question that I call, which is, let's write this down. So the grand slam question is, at the end, let's say they've already spoken to someone who's a couple $100 cheaper. You can say the grand slam question of like, okay, I guess like, can I offer a perspective? They're like, they always say sure. I guess if that shop is charging $200, have you ever considered what they might be sacrificing on in terms of like the quality of tint or the quality of install that's actually allowing themselves to price like $200-300 cheaper? Like, is that something you've ever considered? No one ever considers that, right? Now, again, you might get pushback over here. Some people might still not buy, and you can keep going through the loops and say, hey, well, in reality, they most likely won't do this. And I only say that, by the way, because we get a lot of redos, and I'm not naming any shops in particular, but we get a lot of redos of people who went with a $200 option, and now they have to pay more because it costs to remove it, plus they have to pay more in getting it high quality film, whereas if they just went off with the $500 option, they would have saved all of that hassle, all of the time, and all of that stuff. So that is what I call the grand slam question. It gets people thinking. Because realistically, if someone is able to price themselves cheaper, and I want you to think about this, like if you ever considered a marketing agency, like if a marketing agency comes and says, okay, $500 a month, which by the way, when I started off, I used to be charging like $500 a month. This is like 3 years ago. And back then, obviously, I didn't have the experience that I have now, right? I didn't have the results that I have now, so I was able to charge this. So no matter whatever stage is, there's always a cheaper option. But what do you feel like that person is sacrificing on that they're not getting with you that's allowing themselves to price at that cheaper option, right? It's the same with tint. It's the same as when you go with marketing. If there's someone cheaper, there's always something that is being sacrificed. Only once you realize this, by the way, very important, can the customers realize this. Like if you don't realize that there's a problem going with a cheaper marketing agency, for example, and you don't internalize this and actually believe this, you can never convince someone to not go with a cheaper option because you technically don't 100% believe it in your mind as well with the different analogy. So that is the 5-minute activity. Now, maybe it went a bit over 5 minutes, so I apologize for taking more of your time. Hopefully this helped. And you should be closing more tint jobs after you do this. If you want help getting leads that are actually less likely to go with cheaper options and more likely to go with your film because they're pre-sold in the marketing, well, there's a link in the description to book a call with us just to see if you can help. Only for the people who want, faster results, who want to speed it up and get better results and grow a little faster. Other than that, if this provides you any value, please like the video, please leave a comment, please subscribe. And if you have any other video ideas, drop a comment down below, or you can DM me on Instagram about what video ideas you have, and I can film videos on this. And by the way, this is the free stuff. I'm not going to share everything that we do, obviously, in the free stuff because I want you guys to pay me. So this is literally like 20% of what we do when you hire us. So if you want the full sauce, obviously you would have to pay us. But again, hope you got some value out of this video. I will see you guys in the next one.